The Brunali fleet shattered planets, vaporizing the elderly, women and children under the cruel thumb of Nesso, until humanity rose from the shadows and unleashed Doomsday, the eradication of Brunali civilization. The Galactic Council raged, fretting over the latest planet's surrender. A 7-foot red alien thumped his long claws on the glass, howling, "The Brunali have enslaved 2 more star systems this week alone. Forget sanctions. Forget negotiations. This Nesso beast intends the obliteration of all in his path. We're next. We must declare open war now, with no quarter given." His yellow counterpart slashed a talon across his throat. "So you propose what? The genocide of their entire species?" "No, Councillor Groltak proposes survival," bellowed another, nodding eagerly. "Look around you. Who remains beside us? Who? They attack on all borders. We're the final free coalition standing against total enslavement." They traded desperate glances. Finally, a portly senior statesman rose, his skin rippling technicolor as he croaked, "There's one final option, councillors. One ancient race powerful enough, ruthless enough, to do what we cannot. I remind you, the humans. We've avoided this, but their weapons wiped whole systems. We'd be unleashing a far greater threat." "Silence, what choice remains? We send an envoy to grovel and beg like paupers." The elder's eyes narrowed grimly. "And pray they don't burn our galaxy next." Zylok the Mediator, an unimposing 4-armed bureaucrat, drew the shortest straw. He sweated in his tiny shuttle, whizzing towards the humans' bleak fortress world. The craft landed with a jolt. Zylok extended a trembling appendage to the imposing humanoid awaiting him on the rocky landing platform, Russell Hill. Scarred and grizzled, with a glinting prosthetic arm and stony expression, Russell seized Zylok's hand. The Mediator grimaced, shaking the human's crushing grip, his eyes darting to the oversized pistol holstered at Russell's hip. "I come representing the Council, mighty human, to discuss a matter of great urgency to all free peoples." "Well, get on with it. I've got shit to do." Zylok swallowed. The fate of trillions hinged upon his next words. If he couldn't convince these hardened warriors to rise again in the galaxy's darkest hour, then Nesso's horrors would consume all, and the Brunali's bloody flag would fly over every world, forever. "It's the Brunali, they've returned, and this time there will be no survivors unless—" Russell took Zylok by the elbow, marching him into the underground city. Hulking edifices of chrome and titanium loomed over the pair, with electrical arcs pulsing between the skyscraper's antennas. Through a yawning rectangular door, Russell yanked Zylok into an amphitheater, dark save for a few dim spotlights. 12 old men and women formed an arc in the shadows, their faces crevassed from decades of hardship. Zylok stammered out his plea once more, as they leaned forward in their seats to listen. Some stroked their chins, others crossed their arms. Once he finished, they turned to one another, whispering. A woman with silvery hair in a tight bun stood. "I am Lyra, head of this council. We have a confession. Our ancestors' warships were not destroyed after our victory over the Brunali, all those centuries ago. The fleet was hidden away, repaired, even upgraded in secret, concealed in the Ort cloud where no one would find it." "What? Impossible," Zylok said. "Such a fleet would have been detected." "Impossible for your kind, perhaps, but we've learned how to hide in the void, how to become ghosts." Lyra turned to Russell. "This council could never reach an accord on if we should use it, too afraid that we'd be tempted to conquer like before. But this is an extermination. We cannot stand by, not again. Russell, you must go to the Ort cloud, take our best warriors, bring the fleet, end this." Russell nodded. He squeezed Zylok's narrow shoulder. "Looks like we're gonna be shipmates." The ship streaked from the planet, Zylok feeling a bit green in his stomach. Russell lounged in the co-pilot's chair, feet up on the console, as a fellow soldier named Yvette piloted the craft. 24 more humans filled the ship, cleaning weapons, playing cards, napping. They'd be trapped together for weeks, traveling to the fringes of the solar system. The warp drive hummed. Suddenly the ship lurched, alarms blared. "Subspace anomaly," Yvette shouted. Some sort of vortex, trying to compensate. It's dragging us toward it. The humans scrambled to their stations. The ship shook violently. Rivets popped from bulkheads. Consoles sparked. Zylock found himself flung against Russell, nearly knocking him over. Russell grabbed Zylock by the scruff of his neck, shoving him into a seat. "Buckle up. This ain't going to be smooth." The vortex finally spat the ship out, sending it tumbling end over end. Bulkheads groaned. The crew picked themselves up, checking for injuries. Zylock had a lump on his head but was otherwise unscathed. Russell helped him up. "Yvette, give me a systems check." "Hull integrity at 90%. Shields holding, navigation and... well, we're not where we're supposed to be, that's for sure." She pointed at the view screen, which showed an unfamiliar star field, and then zoomed in on a dense cluster of asteroids. "I think that might be our destination, though. The coordinates match." Russell leaned forward, squinting. There, hidden among the rocks, was the unmistakable silhouette of a ship. No, many ships, massive, angular, bristling with weapons. They looked almost like old Earth battleships, but sleeker, deadlier. "That's it," Russell breathed. "The lost fleet. Let's get a closer look." Yvette guided the ship towards the asteroids, weaving between the spinning boulders. The rest of the crew pressed against the portholes, eager for a better view. Even Zylock seemed impressed, his eyes widening as they drew nearer to the behemoths. Suddenly a plasma bolt sizzled past the cockpit. Alarms blared. "Shit, a Brunali stealth ship," Yvette yelled. "They must have followed us through the vortex." The enemy ship, a wicked-looking thing with forward-swept wings, darted out from behind an asteroid. It fired again, the shot rocking their ship. "Evasive maneuvers," Russell ordered. Yvette sent the ship into a dizzying roll, narrowly avoiding another barrage. The two ships danced around each other, trading blows. The human ship was smaller and more agile, able to dodge most of the Brunali's attacks, but it couldn't match the firepower of the larger vessel. Consoles sparked and smoked as the hits took their toll. Russell gritted his teeth. They couldn't keep this up for long. They needed a plan. His eyes fell on a Brunali shuttle, tumbling dead in space, likely jettisoned during the battle. "There," he said, pointing. "Cato, Jack, suit up. We're going to capture that shuttle and get on board the stealth ship." The two soldiers nodded, already heading for the airlock. Russell turned to Yvette. "Get us close and keep that ship off our backs." "Oh, you got it, boss." Moments later, Russell and his team were spacewalking toward the shuttle, magnetic boots clanging against the hull. They pried open the hatch and clambered inside, quickly overriding the controls. The shuttle sputtered to life. "All right, let's get on that ship and take it down from the inside," Russell said. Jax whooped in agreement while Cato simply cracked his knuckles. The shuttle hurtled toward the Brunali ship, dodging turret fire. It crashed into the docking bay, the impact throwing the humans to the floor. They picked themselves up, checking their weapons. The bay doors opened, revealing a squad of Brunali soldiers. Russell and his team didn't hesitate. They leapt into action, augmented muscles propelling them forward with inhuman speed. Russell ducked under a Brunali's swing and drove his fist into the alien's gut, doubling it over. Jax grappled with another, slamming it against the wall. Cato swept the legs out from under a third, then finished it off with a precise shot to the head. They fought their way through the corridors, a blur of fists and plasma fire. The Brunali were tough and well-trained, but they were no match for the enhanced humans. Finally they reached the bridge. The doors hissed open, revealing the Brunali commander. It snarled, reaching for its weapon, but Russell was faster. He had his gun leveled at the alien's head in a heartbeat. "I wouldn't," Russell said coldly. "Your little empire's caught the attention of some very dangerous people, people with the power to wipe you out. Stand down, and maybe you'll live to see another day." The commander hesitated, then slowly raised its hands. "What are you talking about?" "The ancient human fleet. It's real and it's operational. And if your boss Nesso doesn't back off, they'll be coming for you." Russell gestured to the view screen, which showed the massive ships, now illuminated and very much active. The Brunali's eyes widened. It swallowed, then nodded. I will relay your message. Good. Now get off this ship and pray that Naso listens. The Brunali fled, leaving Russell and his team in control. They sagged, the adrenaline wearing off, but there was no time to rest. They had a fleet to wake up and a war to win. Back at the asteroid field, Russell wiped sweat and grime from his brow as he raced between the ancient ships, barking orders. His team swarmed over the vessels, reconnecting power cables, repairing weapon systems, bringing the slumbering fleet back to life. Xyloc burst into the hangar, waving a datapad. Russell, urgent news from the Council. Naso has launched an all-out assault on Zephyria. The Council's defenses won't hold long against the Brunali onslaught. They need the fleet now. Russell grabbed the datapad, scanning the dire reports. He clenched his jaw. The fleet wasn't ready, not yet, but they couldn't abandon the Council. Jax, Cato, he shouted. The two soldiers snapped to attention. Take our fastest ships and a squadron of volunteers. Get to Zephyria, reinforce their defenses, and evacuate the Council members. Buy us as much time as you can. Yes, sir, they barked in unison, already sprinting to rally their teams. Russell turned to the rest of his crew. We can't win this fight with half a fleet. We need to even the odds. Intel shows a major Brunali supply base on the planet Vulcanus. We're going to infiltrate that base and destroy their fuel reserves. Without fuel, their ships will be dead in space. The crew erupted in cheers, slamming fists against bulkheads. Russell held up a hand for silence. It won't be easy. Vulcanus is a hostile world, all volcanoes and toxic atmosphere. The base will be heavily guarded, but we're the only ones who can do this. We're the galaxy's last hope. Gear up and be ready to move in 10. As the hangar bustled with activity, Russell pulled Xyloc aside. I need you to stay here. Keep working on the fleet. If we don't make it back... He left the rest unsaid. Xyloc nodded solemnly. I understand. Good luck, Russell. May the stars guide you. The dropship hurtled through Vulcanus's noxious clouds, shaking from turbulence. Russell and his strike team checked their weapons, the clicks and clacks filling the cabin. 30 seconds, the pilot yelled. The ship leveled out, skimming over a landscape of bubbling lava pits and jagged obsidian. The Brunali base loomed ahead, a stark metal fortress amidst the hellscape. Go, 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 Russell roared as the ramp lowered. The team poured out, dashing for cover behind sulphurous boulders. Brunali patrols whirled, opening fire. Plasma bolts sizzled overhead. Russell and his soldiers returned fire, augmented reflexes allowing them to pick off the guards with precise headshots. They advanced on the base, leapfrogging from cover to cover. A savage roar shook the ground. A monstrous creature, all scales and fangs and claws, burst from a lava tube. A Vulcanian apex predator. Don't stop moving, Russell ordered. They poured fire into the beast as they ran, its hide shrugging off the plasma bolts. It lunged, scything talons ripping a soldier in half. Russell whirled, sighting his rifle on its gaping maw, and unleashed a full power shot down its gullet. The predator's head exploded in a shower of gore. They reached the base wall, demolition experts setting breach charges. The wall blew inward, and they stormed through the gap, rifles blazing. In the chaos of strobing emergency lights and blaring alarms, Russell led the push towards the fuel depot. Brunali soldiers swarmed to meet them, and close-quarters combat erupted in the tight corridors. Russell fought like a man possessed, augmented muscles driving his fists through armor, bones, flesh. They reached the massive fuel tanks, demolition experts swiftly rigging them with explosives, while the rest of the team formed a defensive perimeter. But as they made to withdraw, a cold voice crackled over the base intercom. Leaving so soon? A hulking Brunali in ornate armor strode into view, a small army at his back, Nesso's top commander. Russell's team was exhausted, battered, bleeding. The commander's force was fresh and ruthless, but they had to buy time for the demo charges. Hold the line, Russell roared, opening fire. His team followed suit, a wall of plasma meeting the Brunali advance. For every human that fell, they made the Brunali pay tenfold. But it wasn't enough. The Brunali pressed forward, heedless of losses. Russell found himself fighting back-to-back with his last two soldiers, the demolition experts. "How much longer?" he shouted over the din of battle. 30 seconds. Russell gritted his teeth. 30 seconds, an eternity. The Brunali were mere meters away. "When I say run, run." He primed a plasma grenade and hurled himself forward, a one-man wrecking ball. He slammed into the Brunali line, unleashing the grenade at his feet. "Run!" The world turned white. Searing heat washed over him. He felt himself flying, falling, then darkness. Russell awoke to ringing ears and blurred vision. Every inch of him screamed in pain. He pulled himself to his feet, surveying the devastation. The fuel depot was a lake of fire. Brunali bodies littered the ground. The demolition experts limped over, supporting each other. Wordlessly, they made their way to the extraction point, a bittersweet victory hanging over them. They'd struck a critical blow, but the war was far from over, and the cost had been high. As the dropship rose into the sky, Russell gazed out at the burning base, a grim smile on his soot-streaked face. They'd bought time, however fleeting. Time for the fleet to muster. Time for the galaxy to hope. But more battles awaited, harder battles. Russell clenched his fists, the names of the fallen etched into his heart. He would remember them. He would avenge them. Nesso's reckoning was coming. The human fleet surged out of the asteroid field, a glittering armada of gleaming ships bristling with destructive power. At the vanguard sailed the flagship, an immense vessel that dwarfed its Brunali counterparts. On its bridge, Russell stood tall, his prosthetic arm gripping the command console. Arrayed before him, the holographic displays painted a grim picture, a beleaguered Zephyria, its defenses crumbling under the relentless Brunali assault. "All ships full burn," Russell ordered, his voice booming across the fleet comms. "Let's show these Brunali bastards what humans are made of." The fleet leapt forward, engines flaring blue-white. They crossed the void in a heartbeat, the ancient drives propelling them at impossible speeds. As they neared Zephyria, the Brunali ships wheeled to face them, a bristling wall of gun turrets and missile pods. "Jax, Cato, you're up," Russell barked. "Punch a hole in their lines. We'll be right behind you." "With pleasure," Jax grinned, his fighter already screaming ahead, Cato on his wing. The two pilots danced through the hail of enemy fire, their augmented reflexes allowing them to weave and dodge with preternatural grace. They fired as they flew, picking off gun emplacements and sensor arrays, clearing a path for the rest of the fleet. Behind them, the human ships engaged, their superior technology immediately evident. Plasma cannons and railguns tore into the Brunali vessels, shredding armor and rupturing hulls. The Brunali returned fire, but their shots splashed harmlessly against the human ship's advanced shielding. In the midst of the chaos, Russell directed the battle with cold precision, his mind a whirlwind of strategy and tactics. He targeted the Brunali ship's weak points, coordinating devastating strikes that left the enemy reeling. Jax whooped over the comms as his fighter squadron tore through the Brunali ranks, their skills honed razor-sharp by the trials they had endured. Beside him, Cato flew with icy focus, each shot finding its mark with deadly accuracy. But even as the tide turned in humanity's favor, a new threat emerged. A massive ship, dwarfing even the human flagship, lumbered into view, Nesso's personal vessel. "Russell," Jax's voice crackled over the comms, "that's Nesso's ship. If we take him out, this war is over." Russell hesitated for only a moment. So much rode on this battle. The fate of the galaxy, the future of humanity, and here was a chance to end it, once and for all. "Jax, Cato, hold the line. I'm going in." He turned to his bridge crew, his eyes hard. "Prep a boarding party. We're taking this fight to Nesso." Minutes later, Russell led a hand-picked team of his best warriors through the burning husks of Brunali ships, their armored transport weaving through the debris towards Nesso's vessel. They slammed into the docking bay, the impact shaking the ship to its core. The bay doors blew inward, and Russell charged through, rifle blazing. Brunali soldiers swarmed to meet them, but they were no match for the human boarders. Russell and his team cut through them like a plasma torch through steel, augmented muscles and lightning reflexes, making them an unstoppable force. They fought their way to the bridge, leaving a trail of broken Brunali in their wake. At last they burst onto the command deck, weapons leveled at the lone figure standing before the view screen. Neso turned slowly, his eyes glinting with malice. He was a monster of an alien, towering over even the tallest human, his body a mass of rippling muscle beneath his ornate armor. "So," he rumbled, "the humans have come to die." Russell stepped forward, shedding his rifle. "This ends now, Neso. Your fleet is in ruins, your soldiers are beaten. Surrender and your life may be spared." Neso laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Surrender to you? I think not." He lunged faster than anything that size should move. Russell met him head-on, augmented fist slamming into alien flesh. They grappled across the bridge, a titanic clash of strength and will. Russell fought with the fury of a man who had lost everything, who had seen his comrades, his friends, die in the cold of space. He fought for them, for the billions who had suffered under Brunali rule, for the future of the galaxy itself. But Neso was strong, monstrously so. Even with his augmentations, Russell felt his strength waning, his blows growing weaker. Neso hammered him again and again until Russell could barely stand. As he staggered back, blood dripping from a dozen wounds, Russell's eyes fell on the view screen. Outside, the battle raged on, human ships and Brunali locked in a deadly dance, and beyond them, Zephyria, the heart of the Galactic Council, fighting for its life. He thought of Zilok, the alien who had become his friend, who had shown him that there was still hope for the galaxy. He thought of Lyra and the others back on the human homeworld, counting on him to end this war. With a roar of defiance, Russell surged forward, slamming into Neso with every ounce of strength he had left. They crashed across the bridge, smashing through consoles and bulkheads. Russell's vision blurred, the world reduced to a red haze of pain and fury. And then it was over. Neso lay still, his neck twisted at an impossible angle. Russell stood over him, swaying on his feet, his breath coming in ragged gasps. "Russell," Jax's voice over the comms, "the Brunali are surrendering. We did it!" But as the cheers of his comrades washed over him, Russell felt a cold numbness spreading through his body. He looked down, saw the jagged piece of metal protruding from his chest, slick with his own blood. He stumbled, fell to his knees. The world grew dim, the sounds of battle fading away. In their place, memories flooded back. His childhood on Earth, a world he barely remembered, his training, the camaraderie of his fellow soldiers, the horrors of war, the friends he had lost. And through it all a sense of purpose, of duty, the knowledge that he had fought for something greater than himself, that his sacrifice had meant something. With the last of his strength, Russell keyed his comms. "Zilok," he whispered, "it's up to you now. Guide them, lead them. Don't let our mistakes be repeated." He could feel Zilok's anguish, even across the vastness of space. "Russell, no, hold on, we'll get you out of there." But Russell knew it was too late. His journey had come to an end. As his eyes drifted shut, he saw not the cold metal of the alien ship, but the green hills of Earth, the blue of an endless sky. A smile touched his lips. They had won. The galaxy was safe. And though the road ahead would be hard, he knew that the legacy of humanity would endure, a light in the darkness, a beacon of hope for all the ages to come. With a final sigh, Russell slipped away, his last thoughts a prayer for the future, and a promise that echoed across the stars. In the silence that followed, a strange peace descended over the battlefield. The Brunali ships drifted, aimless, their crews surrendering en masse. The human fleet hung in space, victorious but somber, the cost of their triumph etched in the scars on their ships and the grief in their hearts. Slowly, solemnly, they gathered their dead, tending to their wounded. Jax and Cato, their fighters battered but unbroken, helped to lead the rescue efforts, their sorrow tempered by the knowledge that their friend and commander had not died in vain. On the bridge of Neso's ship, Zilok knelt beside Russell's body, his eyes wet with tears. He had come to respect this human, to admire his courage and his conviction. In Russell, he had seen the best of humanity, a spirit undimmed by the darkness of the universe. Gently, reverently, he lifted Russell into his arms, carrying him back to the transport. Around him, the human soldiers bowed their heads, their grief a palpable force. As the transport pulled away, Zylock looked out at the gathered ships, human and Brunali alike. The war was over, but the true struggle, the fight for a lasting peace, for understanding between the races of the galaxy, was only beginning. It was a fight that would demand everything of him, of all of them. But as he thought of Russell, of the sacrifices he and so many others had made, Zylock felt a new resolve settle over him. They would not fail. They could not. For the sake of all those who had given their lives for the dream of a galaxy united, they would find a way. No matter the cost, no matter the challenges ahead, they would build the future that Russell had believed in. With a heavy heart but an unshakable will, Zylock turned his gaze to the stars, to the infinite possibilities that stretched before them. The legacy of humanity would live on, carried forward by all those who dared to hope, to strive, to reach for a better tomorrow. And in that moment, as the ships of the galaxy set forth into the unknown, a new era dawned, born in the fires of war but forged in the unbreakable spirit of those who had fought and died for the sake of all. The ancient human fleet, its duty done, its honor secured, slipped back into the depths of space, a silent guardian watching over the galaxy it had helped to save. Until the day it was needed again, it would remain a legend, a testament to the courage and sacrifice of a species that had refused to yield, even in the face of the greatest darkness the universe had ever known. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.